What's up, Bobo? What's up, man? You know we had to get you
What's
back. We had to
down? What's
get you
down,
back,
hey
man.
baby?
Man, I'm cooling, man. Had to get
Yeah,
you
man.
back for the part 2. You dig? How you feeling today?
Man, I'm feeling loving today, blessed. You know, blessed. That's all. That's all.
Man, I know that's real. But look, check this out. So now on this part here, bro, we want to be able to get down a little deep into who Bobo really is. You know what I'm saying? We want to kind of talk about your personal little journey and your background a little bit, if you don't mind talking about it. If you could share a little bit about how your life was before prison.
Right, man. You know, I come. You know, we consider the country. You hear me? I come from St. Charles Parish. You hear me? Not even like 15 minutes out of New Orleans. You hear me? You know, got family from all over. I was raised by my uncle. You hear me? His wife. You hear me? That's like my mom and my daddy. You hear me? But I always had family all over here. I was a young wildest dude in the streets. You hear me? You know, hop on the court. You know, and went full flags in the street. But I always was a smart dude. You hear me? Made it 12th grade. You hear me? Went to jail. Second in the streets. You hear me? You know. But I always kept a head on my shoulders. You know, I was one of them little dumb stupid niggas. You know, a lot of people thought I was, just wild. But I was a little conscious. You hear me? I just was a lost dude. You hear me? I was in the streets, thought I knew it. You hear me? Thought I knew myself, but I ain't know myself. You hear me?
Right, right. So, like looking back, you know what I'm saying? When you look back on moments or some choices and stuff that you made, you know what I'm saying? Does it stand out as, as a turning point to your life now? You know what I'm saying? Does that have anything to do with, what kind of how things is the way they is now with you?
The big turning point for me, like both of y'all know, man. I come to jail when I was 19. On this charge right here, I was 19. Just not turned 20. No, I just not turned 20.
Right, hold up.
And
So do you mind telling the people what kind of charge you on right now?
I'm on a second degree murder charge.
Oh, all right.
Second degree murder charge. You hear me? And I was one of them dudes. I've been in the system all my life. I wasn't no good kid. I ain't about to pretend like I was one of them dudes who the system just picked on me. I was in the street. I gave them probable cause for them to put an image on me. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
So I ain't about to pretend like I was one of them little good dudes who just was I was in the street. You feel what I'm saying? And a big point of turn for me here when I come to jail. You know, like both of y'all know, man, I come to jail not even knowing I had cancer. You hear me? The whole time running the streets and everything, man, I had cancer. You hear me?
Dang.
Just out the blue. Just out the blue one day, you hear me? Knee just started swelling up. I'm trying to play basketball one day while I'm in jail, man. My knee started swelling up. You hear me?
Right.
The
So,
whole time,
man, how that made you feel, or what was going through your head when the doctor actually told you that?
Ooh, at that time, this had to be November 2019. Now, mind you, this November 2019, January 20, no, this November 2018. January 2019, I'm supposed to be going to trial. Now, when they tell me this, I'm cancer, because I used to always be the type, that's why I see a tongue is powerful. I used to always tell people, I smoke a lot of cigarettes, been smoking cigarettes. Man, ain't nobody gonna kill me, I'm gonna die of cancer. That's why they see the tongue is powerful. Then one thing you know, I'm in jail, I wind up catching cancer. You heard me?
Dang.
And it puts you in the mind frame, like, because at the time I called it, I was stage 4 when they found out. Around this time, man, I'm catching 30, about 15 seizures at a time within a 30-minute time frame. Cancer has spread way to my brain. You heard me? you know? And around this time and everything, I'm going to trial. I'm doing all this and going to trial all at the same time. You hear me? All this alone. Yeah, I got my brother I knew I could call, my mama, I could call back in the day. I'm in jail. I'm going through all this alone. Basically, because ain't nobody can come sit on side you when you're doing that treatment. You hear me?
Hmm.
You're doing all this alone. I lost everything. I'm talking about the only piece of hair on my head was my eyebrows. You hear me? That's the only thing I ain't lose, my eyebrows. But every day I stay, make sure I stay strong when I walk into the courtroom. You hear me? I looking like a healthy man. You hear me?
Right.
Because they didn't care. They didn't care. They thought I was going to die. I was supposed to go to trial. They pushed it back because they thought I was going to die. you know?
Yeah,
That's
see,
how I really got.
see, that's like
You know?
that's what they put you in there to do, basically,
You know? So, that was a big turning point for me. You heard me? Like, you thought that, I used to always be the I don't give a fuck if I'm gonna die, but when you faced with that, you gonna know you won't live. You heard me?
That's for real.
You
That's for
gonna know you
real.
won't live.
All right. So, how you felt when you first learned that that you was receiving a life sentence?
Um, it was a bittersweet moment because the on April 24th, 2019, I got found guilty. April 29th, I go to the doctor. I find out I beat cancer. So how can you be ungrateful? You heard
I
me?
know that's
how
right,
can
bro.
how can
That's a
how can
good
you
way
be
to look at it
ungrateful?
right there, man. I ain't gonna lie. Like, shit could definitely be worse. You know what I'm saying?
God was just letting it to me.
Right.
Because I'm not this spiritual person, but I know one thing. I know it's a higher being. I know I ain't get this far by just me thinking on my own, just by me just living the life that I live.
For sure.
I know somebody got to be helping me out. You hear me? And I knew that this ain't the end. You hear me?
Facts.
This just a wake up. You hear
Right.
me? This ain't the end. You know?
Yeah. So with you having that kind of mind frame, and everything that you done been through, like you said, you done caught a murder charge, you done been, you get to Angola, you find out that you got cancer, you going through all of this alone. You know what I'm saying? Since that happened, in what ways have you changed since since all of that happened?
I learned to be more conscious of my decisions. Like things that I used to. I learned to live for me. Because mostly out there in the street, I gave everybody me. I had to learn that all I really need is me. Like I don't need to be with 100 niggas every day. Like up in here, I'm alone. If I don't really mess with you, I'm not. If it ain't about business, I don't really do too much talking. You feel what I'm saying? Like I learned that I found that I can enjoy me. You hear me? Like
Yeah.
I done gave myself to everybody else. Now it's time for me to learn who I am, love me, how much I love myself. That's what I learned. You hear me?
Right.
Like I really enjoy me.
Well,
I found me. You hear me? Like
since you said that, you heard me, that just gave me another question, right? Like I hear you saying that you know how much you learned yourself, how much you learned about yourself, right? So tell me something that
uh,
you learned about yourself that even surprised you.
I learned that. I learned that. I learned that. Like I say, I ain't knew I was looking for. When you're not raised with your biological, even though I was raised with people that I knew loved me to death, always there for me. But you always gonna feel a void because you wasn't raised by your real parent. No
Right.
matter what, you always gonna have a void. No matter what, that's something that and I try to block that out. I think I blocked that out my whole life. You feel what I'm saying? But there's always a void, and I never dealt with that. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that was something that was big in my life that I needed to deal with.
Right.
And that's something that I dealt with. You feel what I'm saying? That void was the void that me always felt like I needed to be with people. I needed to, have that wholeness. You heard me?
Right.
And I learned that at the end of the day, you heard me? When you come to a point in life when you realize at the end of the day life gonna do life, you gotta make the decision to make your life what it want. And that's what it was. I was letting other people make this, even though nobody was telling me what to do, but I still was letting the streets guide me my life on what it was. I wasn't making my own decisions. I thought I was, but I wasn't. You heard me?
Right.
Now up in here, I'm learning that everything I do, I gotta make decisions now. Everything I do is affecting me. You heard me?
For sure. And
So that was
do you think that
what you say.
contributed kind of to the life that led you to where you at now? Like kind of blocking that
Absolutely,
out, not
absolutely,
blocking that out and
Ab-
not accepting it and facing it?
absolutely. Because I was, that was something that I never really dealt with.
Right.
And that was a void that I didn't really understand that really ate me. Because mom used to always tell me, I used to be like, mom used to, do you ever, think about your river? I ain't never used to think, but that's a void because that's something that I had blocked out a long time ago.
Right.
But it was a void that at the end of the day, you still got to deal with. Cause that's a void ain't gonna. That's something that's in you. You know, that's DNA. You know, you always gonna want that other side of your real where you come from. You feel
Yeah,
what I'm
for
saying?
sure, for sure. It's
Cause
a big part of who you
that's just
is.
your DNA. That's who you is.
Right.
You know,
Right. All right. So, all right. So let me ask you this, right? As of now, what does hope mean to you?
hope.
Hope. You know what I'm saying? You know,
Hope
what does hope look like for you right now? You know what I'm saying?
is not too much of a hope. Is hope. I'm kind of the type of person that I look at things for what it is, and I know my journey in life. Like I see things, decisions that I make, things that I've been through, and things that I'm going through, and I just feel like that ain't everything happens for a reason. And when you figure out yourself and you look back on the decisions that you made and the people that was put in your life, to me, I was like I tell my mom and my partner, everybody who I used to hang with. I was a disciple. I'm one of the ones that God sent to show people that this the rough path, but you also make it out. Because everything I've been through, I made it out. Ain't nothing that I didn't go through in life that I didn't make it out of somewhere somehow.
Right. That's real, bro.
You feel what I'm saying? So it ain't so much as no, you got hope. It's that I know that because ain't nothing that I've been through in life, no matter how much it was, through cancer, through just growing up as a child, not having nothing and just making something. Always the tools that people God put in my life, He always gonna make a way that my mind frame changed to the better that I could survive.
Right. That's real, bro. That's real. So, all right. So, do you got like goals and dreams, even though you serving a life
You have
sentence?
1 minute left.
Hold on, do I have what?
Goals and dreams, even though you serving a life sentence.
Hell yeah. Do I have goals and dreams,
All right.
man?
Yeah.
Man,
Let us hear some before the
I
phone hang
want,
up.
man, my goals and dreams, man. I want help the little ones that went that going through what I'm going through, that they ain't go through, that's going through the path that I went through. That's my biggest goal. That's my biggest dream right now. If I could catch one person, bro, one person that don't have to go through what I went through, one person. That's my biggest goal and dream, bro.
And that's the realest. That's the realest right there, bro. And that's what we promote right here on. You know what I'm saying? On Live from the Blocks. Not only the life that people go through in Angola, but trying to teach the youth to stay away from that. You know what I'm saying? And we know that the phone and shit about to hang up, but you know that you could call back a million motherfucking
Yeah,
times. You
I'm calling
feel me?
back right now. Man, it ain't over. We still on part two, man.
Thank
We
you
Oh,
for
still
all
listening
right,
to
there
The
it
Spirit.
is.
Goodbye.